Hey guys, it's Amy at Zoe back, and I'm going to do my weekly update for July 9th, 2023. So there's Cooper, and today is my mom's birthday, so we're going to hang out later this afternoon, or at lunchtime we're going to take off and meet them halfway in Salem for lunch, so I'm looking forward to that. That's kind of all I have for today, other than chores I still need to do. But it was a really quiet weekend. This last week was really interesting because, again, I had a 4-day weekend, which I didn't know I was going to have, and really enjoyed having those days off and just not doing a whole lot. I should have done a lot of chore things, you know, on my list of things to get done, and I didn't do any of them, like almost none of them. It was fun though. Oh, it was great. So I got a lot of good reading done, I think, this week, considering I did more listen to audiobooks. No, that's not what okay. So the audiobooks I was finishing, but some of the physical books that I'm reading are just, they're longer term ones, so they're going to take me longer to read. So I think it kind of some of that. So my reading this last week was finishing up Janellathon, the last couple days of that, and then again, I had already started Jane Austen July when it hit July. So I've been reading a lot of stuff related to Jane Austen, which has been really cool because I do this every year where I say I'm not going to read that many things, and then it just goes down a rabbit hole, and my TBR keeps building as the day goes on, the days go on in the month. Anyway, it's kind of weird. So anyway, so I took part, again, as said, in Janellathon, which was put on by Rainy Day Reads and Libraries and Labradors, and it was from June 26th to July 3rd. So I read one of my Jane Austen July books that I had gotten because of Janelle. So I will talk about that in here in a second. And then the other readathon that I'm doing is all of July is Jane Austen July, which is put on by Katie at Books and Things, Marissa at Blatantly Bookish, and Claudia at Spinster's Library. So I take part in this every year. It's one of my favorite readathons of the year. Every year I think I'm going to be like, okay, I'm not going to read as much stuff, and then it just blows it out the window as soon as we start because my TBR it keeps growing. I keep picking books from the library. My library has gotten gotten out of control when I was doing so well. Anyway, and books I've read and stuff and listened to. So anyway, so I mean, it's going really well. Anyway, so let's talk about the books that I've read, the ones I'm in the middle of, and what I think I'm going to read in the next week. So we're going to first start off with my 2 DNFs because they're both ones that I've tried multiple times to read, and I just can't do it. And I don't know why certain books I push so much to finish, and other ones I just DNF and don't even care. But for some reason, these ones, this first one is because it's part of a series that I'm in the middle of. And I did DNF Ghost Killer by Robin D. Owens. So this is the 3rd book in the Ghost Seer series. This one I just can't read. There's just something about it that is kind of like amateur sleuth kind of thing in this paranormal romance, and it just is driving me crazy the way it's structured and the things that happens. And I feel like they go into this situation that they're into so blind that it's painful to read. And I just got to the point where I just don't care. So this series starts with Ghost Seer, which is following Claire, who on the death of her aunt inherits the family curse, which means she can see ghosts. And so she is put into contact with this other kind of entity, and she has a ghost dog named Enzo, which is the best part of this book, and or these books. And she is trying to help other ghosts, pass on and stuff. Well, this one is dealing with a bad ghost, which again, ghost killer kind of makes sense. So it's a ghost that has fed on other ghosts, so it's has issues, and she and her love interest Zach, who is an ex-cop who now works for a private investigator or investigations company, they are there trying to help the community without them knowing what's happening or believing in it. And it's just it's really interesting. The ghost seer, this series is the ghosts that she sees are all like Old West ghosts. So we're talking about the 1850s and stuff, or, you know, through that 1800s in Denver and around in the surrounding areas. So they're out in the wilderness or in one of the smaller towns away from Denver. And, I don't know. There was just something about this. I have tried repeatedly to read this over the last month. My library let me extend it for another 3 weeks, and I'm going to take it back. I just can't. I got to 176 pages, so it's like, I think I figured it out. It was like 57% of the way in this book. I tried to skim it to even just see what happens, because I do own book 4 and 5 on audiobook because they were on sale during the big Audible sale that they had in June. And I thought, well, I'm going to finish the series. No, I'm not. Not right now. At least right now, I'm DNFing the book, number 3, and DNFing the series. I just don't care. And so I'm going to let this one go. This is a series that I liked, but I never loved. This is definitely on the only 3-star read kind of thing. And none of them were, not even the first one was that great. It was fine. And I just thought, oh, it's a 5-book series. I'll blow through them. They're all really short. And I just could not read this book, and I'm tired. So, unfortunately, I'm taking this back to the library and DNFing the series. I did waste $5 on those 2 audiobooks together. They were really cheap, as I said, but I don't know if I get to the point where there's some day where I just feel like I want to revisit, I can, but I don't. I just have to let it go. And I've tried too many times. So the next book is also one that I've tried 3 times. I started reading this book when it first came out for Jane Austen July, and I tried it then. I tried it last year. I restarted it, tried it again. The first time I tried to read it, tried to read it by audio because I got it from my library because I think it came out in hardback. So I got it that way. And I DNF'd it about 40 pages in. I tried it again last year, DNF'd it about 40 pages in. And then this year I was like, okay, I'm going to just kind of start from where I DNF'd and see if I can get farther, and just see if if I just push through, maybe I'll get to what everybody loves about this book. And I got to 50, is that what I got to? 52. So I'm DNFing The Other Bennet Sister by Janice Hadlow. So this one, I know is beloved as a retelling of Pride and Prejudice from Mary's perspective. I know that it gets so much better once you get past the Pride and Prejudice part of it, but I cannot do it. I cannot even get to the Pride and Prejudice part of it. I mean, it just now kind of mentioned, I think, that someone was going to let Netherfield. Point is that this was, to me, again, I'm sorry, but it was like torture porn. It was just so painful. Everything that happened to her, so painful. Everybody's mean to her, so painful. Everything. Like, I could not handle it. I don't think, like, I mean, it's so hard to express how hard it was to read this. This is written so well, but so well to the point that I was just cringing, and it hurt, it was just like to the point where it was just like, the other cringe was different. That was cringe of, oh, that's stupid, kind of thing. This was just, it was just painful because everybody was mean to her. Everybody, put her down except for one character in here, which was kind of a saving grace of the first couple for a little bit of this book. And just, and even, so where I stopped is I got so mad because a character was telling her she couldn't, you have to be careful about certain things. And it was like her first time at a ball and blah, it was just, it just was not good for me. Again, I've tried this book 3 times. I've never gotten, I got to 52 pages and that's it. I was just like, I can't do this. Like, I'm not going to force myself, anymore. And it's just not for me. I think, as I said, I think it did not connect with me. I think there's obviously something about this retelling. I like retellings of Pride and Prejudice. Again, I have so many of them, or have read many of them. I've never loved a lot of them except for Hearthstone. because, well, it's just off camera here, but because again, that had a fantasy element. It's still my favorite retelling. But this one, maybe it was just because it was so realistic. And again, perfect, beautiful writing like this. I could totally see why people like this. And I can totally see why you could fall in love with this and love Mary and want to follow her. But to me, it was just too all the little things, and everything was like pain. Like it was just pain, pain, pain. And I just couldn't handle it. Anyway, so I don't know if that made any sense to anybody. And I don't not recommend this. Like I still think there are so many people who love this book, and I know I can read it and understand why, but this is just it was just too much for me. It was just way too over the top, and I didn't even want to know what happened to her because it was just so painful. I couldn't even get to the part where I wanted to see the interactions within Pride and Prejudice. And that's usually one of my favorite parts of retellings, is to see how their take from a different point of view, how it comes out. And I just couldn't do it. So that book, unfortunately, I will be getting rid of. Yeah, that was not fun. So, okay. So I've ranted the beginning part of this video. Sorry about that. So let's go through the books that I did read. So I, for Janellathon and for the first part of Jane Austen July, I picked up Sanditon by Jane Austen and Another Lady. So, I had read Sanditon a couple of years ago in this collection of some of her unfinished works. I mean, Lady Susan's in here too, but I'd already read that. But, so I, read that, and then, I heard from Janelle, I think last year is when I bought this, that there was a book that had been completed in the 70s by another author, Anne Telscombe. So 1975 this was published, so it says And Another Lady, but we know now it's Anne Telscombe. So this has the first, and here it comes out to, I think, 71 pages is where it ends. All the rest, so this first part is all what Jane Austen wrote in the few months before her death. So the year, during the year that she died. And then Anne goes on to write the rest of this. So it's her interpretation of where the story would go. So it was an interesting retelling because we had the first part, it was all we have from Jane Austen, and we don't know where she was going to go with it. I don't think there's even much we know that Cassandra Austen would have said about where Sanditon was supposed to go. I don't know if she knew. I don't remember if I've read that anywhere. But so it was really interesting because I reread the Sanditon section with Jane Austen and then continuing on. You can tell that it's a different writer who goes on. There are certain things that she does that I don't think Jane Austen would have done. I just think it was she did twist a few things that I thought were really well done, with the beginning, like things that were set up, and the direction she went in directions I didn't expect. She made certain choices I would not have made. So it was really interesting on that. So this follows, I think her name's Charlotte, and Charlotte Haywood. So she is, from this small country area close to the coast, and this man, oh gosh, what's his name? I don't remember their last name now. It's been a week. Parker. He crashes his carriage, and so he and his wife are kind of stranded there while he recovers at her house, and so he gets to know the family, and then he invites her for the summer to Sanditon, which is his seaside resort. And so then we get to know him and his family, and some of his other siblings come to stay, and then we get to see the people who live in Sanditon, and then so there's quite a few people here, and we get to get the small community that is very much connected with Jane Austen stuff. So anyway, so I could tell from the first, even when I read Sanditon by Jane Austen, the partial, you could tell that it was like it was an early draft, because she tells a lot of things instead of showing them. And you could tell that it was in the beginnings of her writing it, because she was telling a lot of stuff about the characters, which I think later she would have gone back and, massaged a little bit better into a different kind of situation in order to get us that information. You could tell that it was a work, it was an unfinished work. And so I think that was really interesting this time that I really noticed it and, or understood what I was, what I was reading. Like, I guess because I could see where she probably would have changed it later on. Anyway, I think Anne Telscombe did an interesting, as I said, an interesting job. I think some of the characters, I really liked what she did with them and the little things that happened, the little interactions and things that happened. The ending was just off the hook. I don't know what this woman was thinking. I see where she gets the idea, but I'm also like, holy moly, are you kidding? Sorry. So, I thought it was a little unhinged. I really loved the very, very end, like the characters who do get together, how that worked out. I liked that part of the ending, but the right before the climax, the small action in here was kind of ridiculous anyway. But overall, this is really great. Again, I read this for Janellathon because she had mentioned it last Jane Austen July, and I bought it right away after she had mentioned it because I didn't know that there was a book where somebody had continued the story, but from the 1970s, and so I always thought it's not one of the more modern ones. So I wanted to read one that was from a while ago. So that was kind of cool. And again, I got this cool copy. I did read it on ebook from KU or Kindle Unlimited because I don't want to hurt this book because it's such a pretty book that I bought. As I said, I think I bought it online on eBay, and it's really from 1975. So I don't want to hurt the book. So anyway, but I did enjoy this. I don't remember. I'm really glad I read it, and it just, as I said, it was, I think it was an interesting start to my Jane Austen July as to read, the portion that Jane Austen wrote and then somebody continued. I just thought it was a different kind of retelling. And as I said, I read it for both readathons in order to do that. So I'm glad I read, Sanditon, the continuation one, just because it's interesting. So that's why I kind of want to watch the thing on the DVD on the first season just to see what they do and how far season 1 gets with the material that is actually Jane Austen. Because again, as I said, you can really tell it was Jane Austen. She was first draft kind of thing. You knew things were going to change. I just thought it was really interesting. I think it was just fun. And again, as I said, it's on KU, so you can read it there. Anyway, the next thing I finished for Jane Austen July was What Matters in Jane Austen by John Mullen, 20 Critical Puzzles Solved. So I had started this, I believe I talked about it last week. And so I finished it out, this audiobook, I think on Monday. I really enjoyed this time around. As I said, I had read part of it either last year or the year before, and I was like, oh, I probably should reread Emma, and I probably should reread Mansfield Park before I really read this. And then this year I was just like, no, I'm not. Who knows when I'm going to reread those books? And so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna listen to this all the way through and at least get it done. I can always come back to it, and I will keep it because there was some really good things in here. Some questions about, ages and how people call each other. Why was the weather important? What games do the characters play? And it was just, there were so many different his essays were really well done. But you do not read this if you have not read all 6 novels, or probably Lady Susan as well. I think he does mention a little bit about that one too. I thought this was a really good literary criticism book. I haven't read too many, which is weird, but I just realized that I hadn't read very many on Jane Austen, and I probably should read a little bit more since I've read so many I've read all her books. And sorry, still throat issues, sorry. But I if you have read everything of Jane Austen, I think this book is phenomenal in bringing out little details that I didn't remember on certain parts of certain books, especially since some of them I haven't read in quite a few years. But the ones that I've read quite often, it was still interesting the things he brought to light on some of them. I hadn't really paid attention to that. So now when I do a reread, I'm thinking, oh, I kind of remember him saying that. I remember that now. It was just a really good book on Jane Austen and a lot of her writing in her books and stuff. I really, really enjoyed this, and I know why people mention it and talk about it every Jane Austen July, but I have finally read that, so I really enjoyed that. On July 4th, I got an audiobook came in from Libby from my library, and so I listened all day to Electric Idol by Katie Roberts. So this is book 2 in the Dark Olympus series. Oh, sorry. And I really enjoyed rereading this one. I don't think I reread this one last year. I know I really loved it. It was a 5-star read last year, and I stand by that. The audiobook was pretty good. Not perfect, but I still enjoyed it enough that I listened to it all day. Like, I just did stuff I did boring things around the house. I didn't do chores. I did other like fun things around the house while I listened to this, or played mahjong or Happy Color on my iPad. But I just really enjoyed this, revisiting it. So I'm revisiting the whole Dark Olympus series by audio, trying to get through my library before the next book comes out. So I think book 5 is coming out in August, something like that. Anyway, so I'm just revisiting. Again, this is kind of Mafia-ish, where there's Olympus, which is ruled by the 13, or there are kind of like Greek gods titles, but they're human, and they kind of rule the city. And this is book 2, following Persephone's sister Psyche, and how she gets caught up where Aphrodite is not happy with her and wants her dead, and she sends her son Eros after her, and then it's kind of them coming up with a plan to to not have to kill Psyche for Aphrodite, and it kind of goes from there. It's very much a fake marriage kind of thing. So I really enjoyed it. It was fun to revisit that. So I did that just kind of on a whim. I just got it I was waiting for the audiobook until it finally came in. So now I'm just waiting for Wicked Beauty to come in. And then, when did I read? Yeah. So then the next thing I reread Pride and Prejudice by audio. I did the Rosamund Pike one. Pride and Prejudice is my favorite book of all time. So I was trying to hold out like for later in the month to listen to this, because I was trying to get through a couple other things. But no, I think Wednesday I pretty much cracked halfway through the day at work, and I was like, because it was a busy day, and I'm like, I need something different to listen to on the way home, and I started Pride and Prejudice. And so the next day, all I did was listen to Pride and Prejudice to finish this out, which is why on just Saturday I watched the BBC 1995 version of Pride and Prejudice, which is my favorite of them. Anyway, of the adaptations, I do have a few others I'm going to watch during the month, but I did watch that one. Anyway, but the point is that I listened to this one. I just love this. It was just a joy just to revisit again. That is the one thing I love about Jane Austen July, is it gives me a reason to let me listen to my favorite books or read them. So this time I listened to it, which I really enjoyed the audiobook experience of that, because that one's just a good one. And so I'm not going to explain about Pride and Prejudice if you don't know what that is. I'm sorry. But anyway, I really, really enjoyed this one. And as I said, so the reread was phenomenal. So again, I did another reread. So, but after that, I did pick up a different audiobook. I picked up one from the library, another one that had come in that I remember seeing this the last couple of years, and I wasn't sure. I think I got it from the library physically one year, and I didn't get to it. But that is Austen Years, a memoir in 5 novels by Rachel Cohen. So as I said, I've seen this every year for Jane Austen July in the last couple of years, and I really wanted to finally get to it. Hold on. Okay, sorry. That cough just won't go away. So this is a novel, is a memoir about her. She's talking about her father's death and things around that, and then how in the years around his death and him having cancer and stuff, she was reading a lot of Jane Austen. So, it was interesting. So I didn't love this. I think she had a lot of good things about Jane Austen. When she, from researching, she did a lot of stuff that's in biographies and stuff, and a lot of stuff that I read before. So that was all good. That was all good. That was what I wanted, is a connection to the Jane Austen stuff. Her story stuff kind of, I mean, again, I have a trouble with memoirs that are attached to biographies of famous people. It doesn't always work for me. And I think this one was just okay. Like, I think it was fine. There are parts of it that, like the beginning, I thought she did a really good job of weaving between her life and things in Austen's life and in her books and stuff. I think the beginning was really good. Then she goes into chapters about each, not every novel. She doesn't use Northanger Abbey, which is the one that's missing of the 5. So she doesn't count that one because it's written structurally different and stuff. And so it's not connected to how she's using it in her memoir. I think the memoir goes on longer than I thought it would. Not how much she talked about the memoir. I meant the years that passed. Because I thought it would be mostly a little bit more centered around the beginning, which is around her father and stuff. But it kind of goes into years afterwards. And, oh, cat, ow. Anyway, sorry. So I did like this. I did not love this. This is, it was just a 3-star. But it was a quick audiobook. Well, I mean, it was a 10-hour audiobook. But I listened to most of it at work because I was able to. I was doing other things and that I didn't want to do. And listening to something was interesting. So again, it's I think it's, I can barely read that. Anyway, but the Austen Years, it was a book, as I said, it's been on my radar for a while. I did want to try it. I'm glad I did through the library, and I got the audiobook, which was done by Justine Eyre. Really well done. I mean, there was nothing wrong with it. I just think it just wasn't exactly what I wanted in the end. The beginning part was really well put together and meshes really well. But even she said about halfway through things kind of changed. And she thought she would be done with it by now, but then she continued. So I just didn't think it was perfect, but I'm glad I got it done. It's another one of those books about Jane Austen, somehow related, that has been on my radar for years that I wanted to get to. So I got that one done. And of course I did that on a whim because I hadn't planned on listening to that at all. It just kind of happened. And then another one that's kind of a whim that I picked up from the library is The List Lover's Guide to Jane Austen by Joan Strasbach. So this one, I just was looking at stuff on my computer app, like going through books that I could get. And this one popped up when I put in Jane Austen or something. I don't remember what I was looking for at the time. And I was like, oh, what's List Lovers? What's that mean? And so it's just lists. I mean, it has a lot of quotes from her letters. It has a lot of stuff that she did, where she went, where all her characters went, and places that they were in, all the characters' names that ever show up in every book. So it's just lists, like sometimes it's just lists of things. And then other times it was, where's the part where, so like here's like a whole bunch of, that's not, like lists of all the people she knew in each neighborhood, wherever she lived. And so it's pulling information from all her letters of people that she knew, like in her real life. And then it's also pulls a lot of stuff from her novels of all where those characters lived and places that they went. So it was a really interesting little book. I just found it, I just kind of read it yesterday, most of it. And it was okay. As I said, it was interesting. It had some interesting tidbits about stuff. And about her life and her work and stuff, and talking about her and her family and so I don't know. It was a small little book that has to do with facts about her and her novels. I think that is what it is. And again, it was just another one I saw at the library, so I picked it up. So those are all the books that I finished. I do want to say I did pull out cover to cover, Jane Austen cover to cover, 200 years of classic covers, just to look at it. I read this last year or the year before. might be in the year before. And I really enjoyed it. I mean, I went through and read all the little tidbits and stuff. This time I just scanned through the books just because they were, it was just fun to look at. So it just shows all different kinds of covers from the very beginning, like the really old ones to, you know, stuff that's come out in the last couple of years. This was, I think, 2013 or something. Anyway, I'm not counting this as a reread because I didn't reread it. I just skimmed through it. I just wanted to, it was at the library and I just picked it up. Anyway, okay, so I've already talked so much. So those are all the books that I finished and things going on. So we're going to rapid fire through the books that I'm currently reading and then the one book that I'll add to this, I think, later in the week. We'll see how it happens. So I did start Mysteries of Udolpho by Anne Radcliffe. I had to switch to the ebook because this writing is teeny tiny. I couldn't do it. I couldn't stare at this. And this is so description heavy. There is so little dialogue. So it's just all text. And it was just so hard. So I went to the ebook and I have broken down and got an audiobook to try this week. So this might be the next audiobook I go to after I finish the ones I'm in the middle of, which I'll talk about in a minute. But this is still high priority to get done. So I now have an audio, or I have the physical book. I have the ebook from KU. And then I bought a $2 audiobook. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, I still want to read this because this is a Gothic novel from 1794. It's mentioned in Northanger Abbey, and it's one of the only, it's one of two Anne Radcliffe's I have not read yet. That was a completed novel. So I want to, as I said, every year I'm trying to read one of her books. I've just decided this year I have to get to Mysteries of Udolpho just because this is the one everybody normally reads, and I've read everything, like almost everything else. I still have Romance of the Forest to read, which will be next year. But point is that I want to get to this because it's a Gothic writer and they're just crazy. They're just crazy books. Anyway, so I want to do that. I am in the middle of 2 Jane Austen audiobooks because I'm having trouble with Northanger Abbey. Northanger Abbey is not one of my favorites, and I was kind of hoping this time I would fall in love with it, and I'm just not. I still have 2.5 hours left of my audiobook. I'm listening to the cast audio from Emma Thompson and some other people that did a couple of years ago from my Audible Plus catalog. So I have like 2.5 hours. So I'm going to try this week to get this finished. I know the read along was supposed to go to tomorrow, I believe. I don't know if I'm going to finish it tomorrow, but I'm going to try to get done with that. I'm only, as I said, I'm like maybe a third of the way through. But I mean, I'm enjoying it, but I'm not enjoying it. Because again, it's not one of my favorites, just because of, Catherine just drives me crazy. And I haven't even got to the part where she's got to Northanger Abbey yet. Anyway, Persuasion I did start yesterday. I could not stop myself. Again, it's one of those things where almost every Jane Austen July, I re-listen to Pride and Prejudice and Persuasion because they are my 2 favorite Jane Austen books. And they're 2 of my favorite books of all time. So this one is a close second to Jane Austen. There are to Pride and Prejudice. I mean, that one's still number 1 forever kind of thing. This one's so close on my list of favorite books of all time. But I'm listening to this on audio by Juliet Stevenson. So I've listened to that several times. Really enjoying that. I was listening to that. I was cutting blackberry vines this morning. I got to 58 pages in. So I'm about a little bit over a quarter, I think, of the way through, or maybe just a quarter. Maybe it's a quarter. I'm about a quarter of the way through. So I got quite a few hours left to go on this. But I'm pretty sure I'll probably finish this tomorrow. Even though I should listen to Northanger Abbey and finish that one. But I'm probably going to finish this one out first, audiobook-wise, and then finish that. And then start Mysteries of Udolpho. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, but I don't need to talk about these, right? Anyway, so then the one that I'm slowly reading, as I said, is The Social Life of Books by Abigail Williams, Reading Together in the 18th Century Home. This, again, is my nonfiction priority because this is on one of the 6 nonfiction books I want to read this year. It's also because Jane Austen was born in the 18th century, so I counted this for Jane Austen July for the nonfiction. So far, it's very fascinating on reading. I mean, again, people, I'm not halfway yet. I'm over a third though. I'm doing pretty good. I read at least 10 pages every day to get through this. Some days I read, 20, which is a big deal because this is pretty academic. I mean, I think it's not like super hard written. It's a lot of text, and it's a lot of bringing up names of people and like showing examples of their reading and how they dealt with reading libraries and things like that. It's really interesting. I found so many interesting things about the 1700s that I don't know a whole lot about. So this has been really fascinating. The next chapter though is going to be verse at home. So it's going to talk about poetry. Not sure how I'm going to get along with that. And it's like 40 pages. So that'll be most of this week. But as I said, this is a book that I want to get done by the end of the month. I did start it a little early, but not by too much, just because I want to get it done this month. So I'm still working on that. I enjoy it, but it takes a long time to read the 10 pages that I have to do a day. But I'm going to get through that. That's my goal this month. And then last night I started a memoir of Jane Austen and other family recollections by James Edward Austen Lee. So this has his like 130 page memoir biography of his Aunt Jane Austen. And then it has 2 short essays from Henry Austen, her brother, and then 2 other memoir-ish kind of essays from 2 others of her nieces. So this, I have had this on my shelf for a couple of years, and I've been so intimidated to read this. I don't know why. Yesterday I had, I finished the list book, but I don't know why. I felt, you know what, I'm going to read this. Sorry. And then, I just picked it up, and it really wasn't that hard of reading. I mean, again, it's a lot of descriptions. I read the first 2 chapters of his, and it's like 11 or 12 chapters of his, the Austen Lee's, memoir, her biography. So I started to read the introduction, but it was kind of boring. And so I might go back and read some of the introduction information later. It is a good chunk of this book that is not paid. It has like, it has the Roman numerals instead of like page numbers. So I don't want to read that because it doesn't really count. But I will probably read some of that. This does have a lot of notes, so I am reading through the notes as well as reading the text because, again, I do that when I have a classic that I want to do that too. So anyway, this one I hope to get through this week. My goal is I'm going to try to read a chapter or 2 a day to get through his part, and then the rest of them, we'll see how much when I get to those. But I'm hoping in the next week or so I'll be done with this. But again, it's another nonfiction. But it has memoir-ish things with their connection to Jane Austen. So as I said, it's kind of interesting because they're not telling the full picture. They're looking back. Sorry. Sorry. Coughing fit. Anyway, this is from 1870, but there was 2 versions. One was in 70 and 71. I am disappointed that some of the information from the 1871 book is not in here. There was the 2 chapters of Jane Austen's. She had written 2 different chapters of the ending to Persuasion, which I didn't even know existed until a couple books ago, where they mentioned, Austen Years mentioned it. And I go, I didn't know anything about that. And so, but it's not in here. So now I got to find, if anybody knows where you could see the chapters of the Persuasion, the alternate ending, I would like to see that. It would be the last of the Jane Austen stuff I need to read other than her letters. As I said, I've read collections, but not all of them. Anyway, so I do want to do that at some point. Hopefully I can find that this month. Anyway, so I'm going to keep continuing reading that. I did start during my days off, I did start A Strange Hymn by Laura Thalassa. This is book 2 in the Bargainer series. So this is fantasy romance with Siren, who gets tangled up with this fae, and they had a past history in Rhapsodic, and then it kind of comes all to a head in the end of that book, and then this is kind of the aftermath of what happened, and then there are still issues. Anyway, so I did start this, but I have to be in the mood for it, and when Jane Austen July really got started for me, I put it down. So, it's just going to be in my background if I damn it, if I need something different. And then the last thing, sorry, I just want to finish, is The Genius of Jane Austen by Paula Byrne. I'm hoping to finish, or try to start this week after I finish the memoir of Jane Austen. Just because this is I know I have some other nonfiction that could be connected, but this is the last of the physical ones that I have to read. I don't think I can get an audiobook, I think is what I figured out. But this one has to do, it says, the tagline is, The Genius of Jane Austen, Her Love of Theater and Why She Works in Hollywood. So, I had read Paula Byrne's, Jane Austen. Oh, what was that one called? It was like In Small... it says The Real Jane Austen, A Life in Small Things. I think I read that last year, and it was really good. And last year, a lot of people were reading this last year as well as this year. So I do want to get to this because I'm, as I said, I enjoyed that book, but this is another nonfiction I'd like to get to. So, okay, I have talked way too long, and I've had coughing fits. So apologize for that. I'd like to say that I was all well, but clearly not yet. So that's it. I'm in the middle of a lot of things. I've read a lot of things. It's been a week. We'll see how this next week goes. Hopefully I will narrow down to only a few things at one time. Damn it. I'm not doing good. So this is the end of the video. What are you guys doing for your reading? Did you read stuff for Janellathon? Are you guys doing Jane Austen July? How is your reading going? What, anything... Are you all over the map too of keep picking up books from the library when you should be reading stuff off your shelf? Anyway, we're working on it. Damn it. Okay, I will see you guys later. Bye.